APEC Diplomatic Super Week is underway in South Korea's southeastern city of Gyeongju. Just hours ago, President Lee Jae-myung hosted his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump for a one-on-one, and in about a few moments, he will host a special dinner. We go live to the International Media Center down in Gyeongju City, where our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min is standing by. Jung-min, what can we expect from the dinner tonight?
So, Tommy, as you said, President Lee is set to host a special dinner for President Trump and leaders from 7 partners, including Vietnam, Australia, and New Zealand. Through this dinner, the top office says Korea seeks to bolster its role as a key U.S. ally and an agenda setter in regional cooperation in the face of shifting global dynamics. U.S. beef, side dishes, and, quote, peacemaker's dessert will be served. A few hours ago, the second summit between Presidents Lee and Trump following the first in Washington 2 months ago began with a handshake, a traditional welcome, and a photo session at a national museum here in Gyeongju. The U.S. leader was awarded with the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, the nation's highest decoration, for his role as a peacemaker on the Korean peninsula. No American leader has received such an award. Trump was also presented with a replica of a royal golden crown, a trademark of the ancient Silla kingdom, which used to be based in Gyeongju, hoping for a new era of peaceful coexistence. Take a look.
한국과 미국과의 새로운 시대를 위해.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Seoul's top office says Trump's visit carries significance in that a reciprocal exchange has been completed within just 147 days since Lee's inauguration, which is the shortest interval in history. Trump landed in Korea this morning later than expected for his 2-day state visit to South Korea, and the meeting was pushed back by about an hour.
Right, Jung-min, the summit lasted over an hour and 30 minutes. Now, what were the key takeaways from the summit earlier in the day?
So President Lee first started off by mentioning a possible meeting between the American leader and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which will not happen this time. Take a listen.
김정은 위원장과의 회담을 요청을 하고 언제든지 받아들일 수 있다라고 말씀하신 것은 그 자체만으로도 이 한반도에 상당한 평화의 온기를 만들어내는 것이기도 합니다.
I know Kim Jong-un very well. We get along very well. We really weren't able to work out timing. It may take a little time. You have to have a little patience.
He also asked Trump to allow South Korea to secure fuel used for nuclear power submarines to better tackle tracing North Korean or Chinese submarines. Seoul has been seeking to revise the Allies' nuclear energy pact to secure more capacity in reprocessing spent fuel and enriching uranium for non-military purposes. He also noted the need to modernize the alliance and increase Korea's defense spending as he vowed for greater investment in the U.S. Trump responded by expressing hopes for greater cooperation with Korea in shipbuilding. Their high-stakes meeting took place amid key differences remaining over how to organize details of the $350 billion investment to be made by Seoul in return for lower U.S. tariffs. Back to you, Dami.
All right, Jung-min, thanks for that coverage. That was our Yoon Jung-min live from the International Media Center in Gyeongju. So soon, President Trump's first day in South Korea will wrap up with a special presidential dinner hosted by President Lee. In the meantime, joining them are also leaders of the APEC members. While we wait for that to happen here in the studio in Seoul, I'm joined by Professor Hannah Kim. Welcome, Professor Kim.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And also back to our foreign affairs correspondent, Kim Bo-kyung. Welcome back, Bo-kyung.
Hi again, Tommy.
So, Bo-kyung, Trump will be accompanied with other leaders. Of course, the dinner itself is for President Trump who is on a state visit. But who are the other APEC leaders joining him and President Lee tonight?
Right, as you have already mentioned, Trump is indeed on his state visit right now in Korea. And so the special dinner in honor of President Donald Trump and state leaders will be held in honor of President Trump, attended by leaders visiting Korea for the APEC Economic Leaders Week. Guests will include the leaders from 7 regional partner nations, including Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Thailand, and Singapore. The presidential office said that it seeks to strengthen its role as a key U.S. ally and as an agenda setter in regional cooperation. President Lee is expected to emphasize that closer collaboration among regional partners is more crucial than ever, especially amid shifting global dynamics. He is expected to express Korea's determination to continue to serve as a bridge connecting technological leaders and emerging economies in the Indo-Pacific.
Right, so President Trump and President Lee will be accompanied by 7 other APEC leaders. And also, Professor Kim, now how do you expect the atmosphere to be like at the banquet? I mean, it's dinner, so it should be friendly, right?
That's what we would assume, right? So on the surface level, we can imagine it will be really friendly. The leaders are going to be talking to each other as if they, have been friends for a long time. But
Right.
it is very surface level, right? Beneath that, we know that everything from their seating arrangements to all of their discussion points are going to be taken into consideration.
Right, we are now seeing footages of the banquet venue. President Lee Jae-myung just greeted the Prime Minister of Thailand, who is Anutin Chanvirakul. Hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly. Now, Bo-kyung, back to you. Based on their interaction early in the day between President Trump and President Lee Jae-myung, we've seen Trump quite satisfied with all the gifts he received from
Right.
President Lee, right?
Right. So the highlight of the official welcoming ceremony was, of course, President Lee giving Trump the replica of the Sinla's 천마총 gold crown and the Grand Order of Mugunghwa. Trump became the first president to receive the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, which symbolizes eternity, apparently. The protocol official Kim Tae-jin said this gift was to express South Korea's deepest gratitude and respect for Trump's commitment to defending peace and for opening the door to dialogue for peace on the Korean Peninsula 6 years ago. Trump was quite pleased with the gift, as he said he would like to wear it right away and that he will treasure it, while mentioning his willingness to further strengthen the strong alliance between the two countries. Now, when it comes to the 천마총 gold crown replica, it was the largest and most magnificent of the existing gold crowns, symbolizing the sacred connection between the authority of heaven and the rule of earth, as well as the powerful authority of a leader. The crown was prepared to embody the spirit of Silla, the first dynasty to unify the Korean peninsula and to represent the golden age of the Korea-U.S. alliance.
Right, it was indeed a meaningful gift to
Right.
President Trump, and he seemed quite satisfied, right?
Right.
And that was the earlier in the day, for the first day for President Trump here in South Korea. Now we are covering the special dinner being hosted by President Lee Jae-myung for President Donald Trump, and other state leaders are joining them. Professor Kim, what does a banquet like this normally involve?
I mean, in general, it is a dinner, right, among world leaders. But amidst that, there's also a lot of informal discussions, informal conversations. As I mentioned earlier, seating is going to really determine what is going to be talked about. But in addition to that, we have the formal dress code, all these other things. But in addition, it's also an opportunity for the host country to show the culture of the host country. So for us, it is an opportunity for us to show Korean food, Korean culture, Korean history to world leaders everywhere.
Right. Well, speaking of culture, Bo-kyung, I have to ask you, the highlight of the banquet will be the menu, right? What will be served for the leaders? Do we know anything about the menu?
Yes, the details came out just right now. Actually, the dinner aims to celebrate deep friendships, and harmony among the leaders, according to the presidential office. And usually, the dinner menu remains confidential, apparently, until the last minute, as a matter of protocol and security for heads of state. So the details of the menu were only just unveiled, like I said before. The dinner was overseen by Chef Edward Lee, who gained fame through the Netflix competition show Cook at All Costs, known in Korea as Black and White Chef. And in fact, he also served as the executive chef for the 2023 White House State Dinner held in honor of the Korea-U.S. summit, where the main course was braised short ribs with pine nuts. In an interview released on the Foreign Ministry's YouTube channel earlier, he said that he would like to tell the story of Korean food and ingredients, hoping to showcase the beauty that honors tradition while embracing innovation. So, the menu part. For the dinner banquet, a fusion Korean menu was prepared for President Trump, featuring specialties and ingredients sourced from regions across the country, serving poached lobster tail, dumpling with 영월 오골 chicken and truffle.
Wow.
Yes.
Sounds fancy.
I know. A premium Western-style course featuring 구룡포 flounder topped with caviar and 경주 천년 한우, the beef sorin with 남산 pine mushrooms and a dessert.
Sounds absolutely delicious. Now, President Lee at the moment is greeting the Australian Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese. There they go. Now, Professor Kim, I do have to mention the banquet comes after Trump and Lee held their summit talks. The question is, will tonight's banquet be an extension of their summit talks?
I think this is a very difficult question because on the one hand, we would expect them to continue on with the conversation, but at the same time, it is a dinner, right? It's a much more informal setting. So depending on what happened during the summits, if they ended on a really good note, I could imagine President Trump continuing on with the conversation, complimenting both President Lee and Korea. But if there were no real solutions being made, it's likely that, they may try to avoid the seriousness of what happened during the summit. And also, because of typical dining etiquette and all of the other world leaders that are going to be around, it's going to be very hard to have a very serious conversation about tariffs or anything like that.
I mean, hopefully they don't choke on lobster tail, ogre chicken and truffle. Hopefully they can enjoy the food itself. Right?
I hope so.
Well, Bo-kyung, we do need to touch upon what President Lee and Trump talked about during their opening remarks ahead of the meeting. Do give us a recap.
Right. So first of all, we need to talk about how President Lee clarified that the Kim-Trump summit is not going to take place. So he began his opening remarks by complimenting Trump for having brought peace to 8 conflict regions in the world and asked him to become a peacemaker on the peninsula too. He said that he is willing to become the pacemaker if he is going to be the peacemaker on the peninsula. And although North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has not yet fully accepted the president's sincere intentions, he said, and thus the meeting couldn't take place, President Lee pointed out that the fact that the president expressed his willingness to meet with Chairman Kim at any time has in itself created a significant atmosphere of peace on the Korean peninsula. And he further vowed to act as a pacemaker, as I said before, for peace to come in the region.
Right. And as our foreign affairs correspondent Bo-kyung was speaking, Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong just joined other leaders, including those from Vietnam and Australia. Professor Kim, as we heard from Bo-kyung, the potential summit between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and Trump is not going to happen, unfortunately. But what could have been on Kim Jong-un's mind, really?
Yeah, well, I think Trump stated that they're not meeting because of timing issues, right? And Trump is only going to be here for 2 days, so it could potentially be a timing issue. But Kim Jong-un and North Korea has also test-fired missiles and has signaled that, they are sending warning signs to a certain extent. It seems as though Kim Jong-un has, at least within the past year or so, shown that he is less willing to have these conversations with the United States as well as South Korea.
Right.
So it seems like he doesn't want to maintain the friendly relationship that him and President Trump had in the past. And he seems to be making that quite clear.
Well, it looks like that option is now off, even though Trump kept sending love calls to Kim Jong-un leading up to APEC this week. Bo-kyung, President Lee Jae-myung also talked about several other issues that Seoul wants to ask the U.S. for other than tariffs and also Seoul-Washington alliance. What were they?
Right, so he did touch on some security issues. He hoped the ROK-US alliance could develop into a much more modernized and future-oriented comprehensive strategic alliance. And regarding this, he said South Korea would expand its own defense capabilities through increased defense spending. I believe this was based on the consensus that has already been made in the previous summit in August, increasing South Korea's defense spending to 3.5% from the current 2.3%,
Right.
if I'm correct. And he also urged President Trump to allow Seoul to receive fuel for nuclear-powered submarines, saying that diesel submarines have limited submerged endurance, restricting South Korea's ability to track North Korean or Chinese submarines. And he added that if fuel could be supplied, South Korea could use it to, build several submarines equipped with conventional weapons the country already has and carry out maritime defense operations that would considerably reduce the burden on U.S. forces as well. And another was the urge to revise the South Korea-U.S. nuclear cooperation agreement, expanding South Korea's rights to enrich uranium and reprocess spent nuclear fuel to a level similar to that of Japan. Under the revised 2015 South Korea-U.S. Nuclear Cooperation Agreement, South Korea can enrich uranium only below 20% with U.S. consent and is prohibited from reprocessing spent fuel. So through this revision of the agreement, South Korea is trying to have this nuclear related capability befitting its advanced nuclear industry capability.
Right, it's a favor that Seoul is asking, President Lee Jae-myung is asking Trump for the first time. Now, for those who are just joining us on Arirang TV, we are covering special live coverage of the special presidential dinner in honor of U.S. President Donald Trump, who is on a state visit to South Korea. Although it is a special dinner prepared for Trump, other APEC leaders are joining President Trump and President Lee, and it looks like all 6 other APEC member leaders have gathered, including those from Australia, from Vietnam, from New Zealand, and Canada. And it looks like we are just missing Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, it seems he's not there.
Yeah, not yet. So, well, his whole schedule today has been delayed hours. So it's not really a surprise that he's again late. Now, Pokyung, this is a banquet dinner. Now, let's talk about the food once again. Now, what will be on the dinner table tonight?
Right, as I had just explained, for the dinner banquet, a fusion Korean menu is going to be prepared for President Trump and all the other guests, the leaders from the 6 other regional countries. And it is going to feature specialties and ingredients sourced from regions across the country. Apparently, they're going to serve poached lobster tail dumpling with chicken and truffle, and beef featuring 구룡포 flounder topped with caviar, and a dessert, of course. And the presidential office said this dinner aims to celebrate deep friendships and harmony among the leaders. And usually, the dinner menu remains confidential until the last minute. That's why we weren't able to know what the dinner menu is going to be until the last minute because of the protocol and the security for the heads of the state.
Right.
Apparently, the dinner was overseen by Chef Edward Lee. I enjoyed this show, actually, myself.
Right.
He was from Netflix competition show, Cook at All Costs, which is known in Korea as Black and White Chef. And apparently, he wanted to show the beauty of the Korean ingredients, and thus he used a lot of ingredients and specialties that he could get from across the countries. For those who might not be familiar with him, he actually served as the executive chef for the 2023 White House State Dinner.
Right. President Lee just greeted the New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, and right after U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived to attend the dinner banquet prepared for him, and we cannot hear what they're saying exactly, but I'm assuming they should be excited for the dinner, right? After their long negotiations, right?
Yeah, I mean, they must be tired after everything.
Oh
so
yeah, I'm
they
sure.
must be
Plus the
looking-
jet lag, right?
Right. So they must be looking forward to this dinner.
Right. Well, Professor Kim, now about this banquet, what does a banquet normally involve?
I mean, a banquet of this caliber would usually consist of world leaders sitting together in a formal setting, having conversations that seem relatively friendly and conversational, but have a lot more underlying those kind of more general conversations. The seating is going to matter quite a bit in terms of who they're going to be talking to and what kind of discussions are going to be taking place, because every minute matters within these dinners, even if it does seem casual. So we can imagine that a lot of informal but important conversations are going to be taking place.
Right, something that they cannot really discuss behind the doors, right?
Right.
Well, the leaders are now taking a group photo. There they are, the U.S. President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump and 7 other APEC member leaders have gathered for their banquet. Now, let's pick up where we left off, Professor Kim. So what about the banquet? What does it normally entail?
So it will mostly consist of a dinner. There may be some ceremonies that are showcased in Korean culture. We talked about the Korean food by Chef Edward Lee, who does do a lot of fusion. So he is going to be putting his own kind of unique taste to it.
Definitely.
And we're also going to just be seeing a lot of different conversations between the leaders.
Right. And Bo-kyung, I do have to remind again that President Trump is on a state visit. Now, who are the other APEC member leaders that we just saw? Who are they?
Right, as you have already mentioned, he is on his state visit, and so this dinner's name is actually a special dinner in honor of President Donald Trump and state leaders, which means that this is mainly for Donald Trump, and the other guests are welcoming him and this at this venue all together. So guests will include the leaders from 7 regional partner nations, including Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Thailand, and Singapore. The presidential office said that it seeks to strengthen its role as a key U.S. ally and as an agenda setter in regional cooperation. President Lee is expected to emphasize that closer collaboration among regional partners is more crucial than ever, especially amid shifting global dynamics. And he is expected to expressed Korea's determination to continue to serve as a bridge connecting technological leaders and emerging economies in the Indo-Pacific.
Right. It looks like the leaders have now sat down for their dinner banquet. Professor Kim, you mentioned the sitting order.
Yes.
What does that signify?
Well, we're clearly seeing that President Trump and President Lee Jae-myung are sitting next to each other. So it is a good opportunity for President Lee to focus on strengthening the ROK-US alliance. Of course, there are other world leaders there as well. So it'll be very difficult to have a one-on-one conversation, but we can imagine that they can whisper on the side a little bit and have these conversations as well.
Well, I do have to ask, are these assigned seats?
They are, but it usually tends to be confidential. But in this case, it hasn't been clearly stated whether or not that was the case, but it was, yeah.
이렇게 각국을 대표하시는 우리
So
정상
we have the
여러분들을
representative leaders
이렇게
from
한
various
자리에서 뵙게
nations,
돼서 너무
and
반갑습니다.
I am very pleased to be meeting all
특히
of these
트럼프
leaders in one
대통령께서
place.
오늘 이
And
자리에
in
함께
particular, we have
주최해 주셨는데
President Trump hosting this
대개
together
다
with myself.
미국의 우방국들
And we have
동맹국들입니다.
the allies and nations
지금
friendly
세계가
towards
매우
United
여러 가지
States here.
측면에서
As for the
복합적으로
world,
위기를
in
겪고
many
있지는
aspects,
하지만
we are
이런
facing
때일수록 각 국가 간의
comprehensive
연대와 협력이 매우
crises.
중요하지
And
않을까
in these times,
생각합니다.
the alliance and
오늘
the
이렇게
consolidation between
어렵게
the nations
만나는
are even more
자리인데
important for
우리 정상
solidarity.
여러분들의
So we
의견도 함께
were able to
들어보고
meet together,
또 함께
and
토의해
I would like
보면 좋겠다는
to
말씀
listen
드립니다.
to many great
특히
opinions and have some
트럼프 대통령께서
discussions.
오늘
In
이렇게
particular,
함께 자리해 주신
we
것은
have
정말로
President Trump
각별한
here,
의미가 있다고
and
생각합니다.
I think this is even more meaningful
일단은
because of the
제가
presence of President
주최국으로서
Trump. And as the host
모두
nation,
각각의
I hope
대표하는
that
국가의 발전과
we will wish for
평화를
the
위해서
advancement
같이
of
건배하시면 좋겠습니다.
our respective countries and for the peace of the world. And I would like to make a toast.
세계의 평화와 국가
for the
간련들을
peace
위하여.
of the world
Cheers.
and the solidarity between nations. Cheers.
그리고 저는 아주 짧은
And
이
as for myself,
말씀으로 제
I like
말씀을 다 드렸기 때문에
I offer my
트럼프
short
대통령님의 축하 말씀을
comments,
한번
and I would like to hear the congratulatory remarks from President Trump now. And there is a microphone here.
Hello. So I'd like to thank everybody. I know you all either reasonably well or very well. And we had a tremendous meeting today with South Korea. I think the meeting was a lot was determined, very much determined. And we made our deal. We pretty much finalized a trade deal. And we discussed some other things having to do with national security, etc. And I think we came to a conclusion on a lot of very important items. We had a terrific meeting in Japan also, and we concluded a trade deal, very big one, a very big trade deal. And I always say good for both countries. I think it really is great for both countries. But I just wanted to thank you. You rolled out a red carpet that was a very good red carpet, a beautiful red carpet, and giving me the honor of that magnificent piece of art, because it really was a piece of art that you presented to me today. And to be the first president of the United States that got that was really something very special. So I appreciate it very much, and I won't forget the trip. And we'll be working together, and you have a little bit of a cloud over your country, and we're going to get that cloud solved. You have a neighbor that hasn't been as nice as they could be, and I think they will be. I know Kim Jong-un very well, and I think things will work out very well. Tomorrow I meet with President Xi of China, and I look forward to that. And we've been talking a lot over the last month, and I think we're going to have something that's going to be very, very satisfactory to China and to us. I think we're going to have I think it's going to be a very good meeting. I look forward to it. Tomorrow morning we meet. And then I go back to the United States, and then I go around the United States, and the same thing happens, but we're doing very well. Our country is doing phenomenally well, better than I think it's ever done. We hit new highs in the stock markets, all of them. Every market's hit new highs, and they have, I think, 48 times since I've been 9 months. We've hit 48 times we've hit new highs, and many of you are investors in the United States. From the standpoint of stocks, you put a lot of money in our stocks, so you're doing very well. I'd like to congratulate you. In some cases, you've doubled your money in about a year, and I'm very impressed with you. Your voters are very impressed with you. But we've done amazingly well. I don't think there's ever been anything like it, and we're over 17 trillion, probably up to 18 trillion dollars of investment. In the last 4 years of the last administration, there were less than $1 trillion. And we're over 17 trillion. We're close to 18. I think we're going to be 21 or 22 trillion by the time I finish my first year. And there's never been anything like that for any country, not even close. And part of that is the national security, given to us by the tariffs, properly used tariffs, very properly used. And other countries, as you know, have used them against us, but we never chose to use them very much. And we should have, and it's made a big difference. Our country is thriving. I think we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And a year ago, we were a very troubled nation, but we're not anymore. So I just think it's an honor to be with you. You've all done a fantastic job. You're fantastic leaders. We had a great meeting a week ago. You came all the way, and now you came here, but this isn't quite as far. This time I traveled far. But you've done a fantastic job, and we're working together on rare earths, but we're working on a lot of things together, and it's all working out very well. But I just want to thank you for your hospitality, Mr. President. It's been great, and it's an honor, and we'll be back, and we'll see you again. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There, we just watched President Lee and President Trump deliver their remarks ahead of a banquet dinner hosted by President Lee Jae-myung for U.S. President Donald Trump, but also accompanied by other APEC leader members. Professor Kim, I'd like to start with you. What did you think of President Lee's brief but compact toast and the remarks?
It was very short compared to President Trump's speech, but it did focus on solidarity and cooperation, which seems to be the overall theme of APEC this year as well. I think he also mentioned similar themes during his keynote speech earlier today. So he does seem to be focusing on cooperation and trying to avoid this sense of isolationism that the entire world has been experiencing. So he really seems to be hammering that in, and cooperation is important.
That's a very good point. That's why he mentioned world peace in his toast. Now, turning our attention to Trump's rather longer, a message. What was the core of the message?
Well, I guess, first of all, Trump is very pleased with the gifts that he received from President Lee Jae-myung. He said he received, the Grand Order of Mugunghwa and also the replica of the Cheonmachong gold crown, right? And he kept talking about it, how it was like literally a piece of art. And he was also talking about the red carpet rolled out for him. He was very pleased about that. But another point that we need to focus is that he said that there was a tremendous meeting with South Korea, and he said the trade deal was much finalized along with the national security domain. Now, it seems they weren't able to conclude or finalize all the details regarding the tariff deal. So it seems more work needs to be done later on regarding this part.
Definitely. Professor Kim, he also mentioned Kim Jong-un. Is that expressing some sort of regret that the possible meeting did not happen? What did you
It may be because he did want to have a meeting with Kim Jong-un, but like what Bo-kyung said, he seemed to be more focused on his accomplishments, and the gifts he got and the flattery and kind of more focused on American exceptionalism. So he kind of mentioned Kim Jong-un, but then he went on to talk about stocks and a lot of the other great things that America has done.
He got swayed by himself during his own message. And now, Bo-kyung, then what lies ahead for South Korea-U.S. diplomacy? I mean, what are the pending issues that we have to, work on in the near future?
Right. Today's summit itself was indeed a very meaningful one, I would say, because both leaders were pleased with each other, and both leaders were able to share their thoughts with the gifts, of course, regarding the ironclad alliance and hoping to see to ease tensions on the peninsula. But there are pending issues, and one at the top would, of course, be the trade deal that I talked about earlier. The deal made on July 31st was for the U.S. to lower its reciprocal tariffs on South Korea to 15% in exchange for massive investment pledges and market opening. And currently, as we all know, all issues regarding this $350 billion worth investment, the method, amount, the timeline, as well as how to share losses and divide dividends remain as contentious points. And because of this tariff deal, it seems the other security deals too are having trouble being announced according to the sources. So it would be important for the two leaders and working level officials to sort that out later in the future.
Indeed. Today's summit with President Trump is one of many summits slated for President Lee Jae-myung during the APEC period for the rest of the week. Professor Kim, what do you think remains crucial for President Lee to really practice and realize his so-called pragmatic diplomacy during APEC?
So one thing is that he really needs to focus on, as we were talking about, strengthening the U.S.-ROC alliance. I mean that in the sense that not just at APEC, but this needs to be more long-term, right? President Trump tends to be a little more inconsistent. So he may say this now and then he may change his mind later. So the hope is that, we are able to maintain that cooperation afterwards. But also because progressive administrations tend to try to focus on having this balance between the United States, China, and also the North Korea issue, President Lee has a lot on his plate. But I think APEC in general was a way to show that after a year of political turmoil in Korea, things have stabilized. We are in a better place now, and I think that's what he wanted to show.
Definitely. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for coming in tonight. We appreciate your insight and your time as always.
Thank you so much.
And also, thank you, Bo-kyung, for the coverage during the entire day. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we also thank you for staying with us for a special coverage of the banquet hosted by President Lee for President Trump. Well, we'll be back with details later in our 8 p.m. newscast. Until then, goodbye.